Hello and welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. And today we are talking about Superman Legacy, or is it? Is it actually still Superman Legacy? I mean, according to James Gunn, it's not. So I'm actually kind of confused. I'm like, wait, so like it's kind of like who like if you made Swamp Thing but 40 years apart, and they're meant. I mean, now you're gonna just be having all kinds of comparisons. This is dangerous. That's what I think about that. Of course, we also gotta look at the new crest. So we'll talk about that, and then we will switch over and talk about movie of the week. And the movie of the week, of course, is Dune Part Two, a supposed masterpiece. I mean, I say supposed because I haven't seen it yet, but Angelina has. And speaking of Angelina, and speaking of DCU Daily, today we are kind of doing a big mashup here. So with me, we've got both John and Angelina. So we'll start with Angelina. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys? It is good to see everyone. Good to be back on the live show. I'll try not to do anything too embarrassing.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Yes, it's
I was like, how long
all
is it going
life.
to stay on my face?
It's we gotta like give everybody their time in the spotlight. Speaking of the spotlight, John, how are you doing today?
Eh, you know, good as I'll ever be, I guess. Breaking Superman news yet again. So here we are. Gotta, ride that, ride the algorithm, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get right into it, right? The Superman
Yeah,
story, there's actually two parts to this story. So I'm just gonna like throw this up on the screen while we talk about it because there's no better way to discuss it than to just, show it. And so let's take a look at the new crest. This is
right.
the logo. I mean, we
Yeah,
sort of got the sense of what the symbol was gonna be look like. It was gonna be sort of Kingdom Come-esque and like Superman and the Authority, that kind of design. We knew that part. What we
yeah,
didn't know is the colors. We didn't know like how big it was gonna be, and we didn't know like it was gonna have texture to it. Like this
right.
answers a lot of those questions. And obviously with the snow, you'd imagine, okay, maybe he's hanging out near the Fortress of Solitude or something like that.
Exactly.
So and then the other news, in addition to the image, you could see in James Gunn's post here on Instagram, that he shared there's a title change, and that's something which I'm more interested in than even maybe the crest, because the crest I've got thoughts about. But before I give my thoughts, John, since you are probably a bigger Superman fan than I am, because my favorite character in DC is Batman, but like
Right.
Superman is a close second. For you, the order is sort of flipped. So in that sense, what were your expectations? And then now looking at it now, how do you feel about this logo?
Well, I was with, all the talk. I was like, okay, it's something we've never seen before. It's gonna blow us away. And obviously they have to say all that because, to get people excited. That's the whole, PR speak, that kind of thing. Of like, okay, this is gonna be the greatest thing you've ever seen, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And looking at it, not the greatest thing I've ever seen, obviously. I mean, it's kind of, kind of I mean, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's okay. The thing is, it's just like with like James Gunn and his like look and feel and how he described it, it's like, oh, we're gonna have a brighter Superman, all this stuff. And yet the half of the Superman logo is like a turd brown, and then you
Okay,
have like maroon, and it's like we've seen this song and dance before, and not a lot of people liked it. So like that
you
darker sort of
guys,
thing.
does this
So
look
Like
any
Man of
different
Steel.
from the other one?
yeah,
Does
it's
it really?
it's
Well,
like ever so
yeah.
slightly. That's the thing. It's like y-
Okay, yeah, but like I'm talking about the newest Superman. It looks like Henry Cavill's Superman. Definitely
yeah,
not that
it
Superman.
does kind of, a little bit, because the thing
Yeah,
is,
it looks
it
the
looks
same.
pretty similar, and maybe because here's the thing, I'll give them the
Oh
benefit of
my
the doubt.
god.
Maybe it's like an early design, maybe it's like maybe like a prototype sort of thing, and then like maybe he gets something later on, but it's pretty much, it just feels like Snyder's crest plus Kingdom Come with like some tweaks here and there. That's just what it kind of
Yeah,
feels
it's
like.
giving. It looks the same.
Um
Sorry.
but yeah, it's perfectly fine. Like, I don't like, you could kind of see it. It's like on the top and the side, it's more like a rounded, edge to it, like more like circular. Where and it's kind of reminiscent of the Fleischer logo, where the yellow was on the outside and it was like black and then red. So it's like kind of giving that vibe. And then obviously you have the Kingdom Come crest, and then the bottom part of the S is like kind of more substantial than the original, which was more like a half of a Z. So yeah, it's not bad. It's just like it just looks kind of it looks good. Like it looks fine, but like not mind blowing, not crazy, not the greatest thing ever, but it looks pretty good. Like I just wish it was a little bit brighter. That's all. Like I just wish, it was like a scarlet red and like a royal blue, maybe like a slightly darker royal blue, and then like, bright neon yellow. Cause I feel like when you see
Yeah.
that across the sky, it's like, okay, this is what, we're seeing. This is the Superman we're getting. And it's just kind of just kind of
Look,
it's good. It's good. Nothing great.
It's
good.
Dude, here's the thing. I looked at this logo, and then let's just pop this back on screen for a second, right? You look at that suit that we have from the Superman and Lois show, and I feel like the texture of that suit, and also the texture of the Kingdom Come Superman suit that Brendan Routh wore, that's the level of this, thought I feel like they put into this logo that we're getting, as opposed to now. I mean, yes, there's a lot of Snyder fans, toxic Snyder fans out there who will like bash your head in with the comparison of like
Right.
they'll zoom into the texture but of the Superman suit that Henry Cavill wore. But at the end of the day, I thought this feels like a downgrade because there was more thought put into it, feels like, from a costume design standpoint, into that Henry Cavill
Right.
suit, what it meant. Now again, it's an unfair comparison. We're comparing not just one movie, we're comparing like a 2 or 3 movies worth of appearances, including a full movie, of course, origin story movie with Henry Cavill versus a picture. So
we can get
it is
like
an unfair
updated
comparison.
stuff. Like I will say,
Yeah.
because like look at the BVS suit versus the Man of Steel suit. The BVS suit's way better. It's like more golden. It's a little bit brighter. It looks cooler.
Yeah.
So
Shot
I like
differently, different
that.
lighting
And
and
the
everything.
thing is, it might get updated as time goes on. And it's like pretty good. It's just like, it's like it just looks a little bit too Snyder-esque, where it's like, okay, I thought we weren't gonna be doing this. Are we just doing this because, the Snyder fans are pissed? Okay, let's get them along. Let's have dark colors now.
Well, but the thing is,
That's what
like,
they like.
to be fair, James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy suits were kind of like grimy and dirtied up and
Oh,
sort
that
of like
makes
lived
sense,
in too.
Well,
So,
I think it just
but
adds a
yeah,
layer of realism to it from a
exactly.
costume standpoint. Like they're trying to bring these comics into, this day and age, this year, and as our fashion changes so dramatically, trying to get away from those super bright neon colors. Like a neon yellow to me gives cheap now versus like comics. So I think it's trying to like meld the comic world with the actual like fashion world and trying to like make it cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
guess
mean,
so.
it's gonna be interesting to see how this plays into the story. I want to see what the background of this suit is in terms of why this design. Like, what's the
The
in-story
snow is
reason?
giving
So,
more to me than
I will say it's kind of
yeah,
funny that the fake suit that James Gunn debunked honestly looks better than this. That's
what
like
was
kind
the
of the
fake
funny
suit?
part.
I didn't
It
see
was
it.
like super bright. I just sent it to you, but it's
yeah.
like
I'm gonna pop
super
it open.
bright, royal blue, red, yellow, like that classic look. It looks fantastic, but James Gunn says, "Oh no, that's fake." And then he was probably like, "Okay, we're gonna get like a ton of these types of things, so let's put the official one up." I'm sorry, I prefer this. I love
Why?
this
Is
is
it
like the
because it's
perfect
more
look.
like real to the comics?
Yeah, no, I just like this vibe more. I like I guess like
To me, it
people
looks
consider it
so
goofy.
old. Like
Oh yeah,
it,
no, I
it
love
looks
that.
like you
Like,
plucked him out of the 50s.
yeah, no, that's definitely the
'Cause
vibe I
everybody
like.
wants that curl. That's the thing. They want to
I
see
mean, I
that.
Right.
love the curl. I'm not referring to the curl. I'm talking about the color palette of his suit.
Yeah,
That's
no,
true.
I love the
But
color palette
It's
like
like
that.
but the
they plucked him and then they put little like little swim trunks
I love the
over.
trunks. That again, I'm an old fashioned when it comes to Superman looks. I like the old fashioned. Like
Yeah, you're a
I
big
like
fan of like the 50s
for instance,
vibe.
my favorite suit, the best Superman suit we've ever gotten was Brandon Routh's Crisis suit, with the Kingdom Come. That is easily the best suit we've ever gotten.
I don't know
just,
any of these references, guys.
So,
But
well,
man,
he knows what I'm talking about. Like that suit, that because it's like it's got that like slightly darker feel, but it's like not like
This
too
is a
much.
way better suit. That looks like a better suit to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, again, not a fair
Okay,
comparison.
I feel
just
like
looks
it is a general rule of thumb that Superman has to be hot. That man is not that cute. No, sorry.
Well, I mean,
I
he's
mean-
older. Like that's the whole thing.
I
It's
no.
actually funny you say
Superman
that.
has to be like stunning. That man is
It's-
not stunning.
Well, I mean, then
Okay.
he'll bleed into it, bleed into Earth people a little bit better, I guess. But it's funny because when James Gunn released the image of
Who are we talking? Wait, hold on. You're talking about Brendan Routh, right, Angelina? Just making sure.
That man in that photo? No.
Yes, Brendan
that
Routh,
photo.
right?
No.
Like him. We're talking about Brendan Routh. Okay.
Yeah, and he it's funny because I
That's funny.
showed her a picture of like the James Gunn photo of like the entire cast
In that photo,
after
it's
the
not as
table
bad.
read.
But
And I showed her a picture.
no.
I'm like, oh yeah, David Cornsweet, because like the whole thing, the reason people cast David Cornsweet in fan casting was that he looks a lot like Henry Cavill. And looking at me, and I was like, oh yeah, he looks a lot like Henry Cavill. And I showed my mom a picture. She's like, oh, he's not Henry Cavill. And I'm like, damn, all right, calm down.
No, Henry Cavill.
And I'm like, damn, like you're saying he's ugly or something. Jeez.
I'm just really shocked that he didn't change his name before he came to Hollywood. Like, not that he should have to, but the name is like, wow. But he's very pretty.
Well, of course, the actor playing the character is not Brendan Routh. We of course have he's the one with the gray hat on. That's our Superman.
Yeah.
David Cornsweet.
David Cornsweet, I know who he is.
He's not very well known. He has done a few things, but not anything super high profile, which I think is on purpose. Like Henry Cavill wasn't very well known.
Yeah.
Before we move on to Dune, I wanted to just touch upon the idea of the fact that they just changed the name of this movie. Yeah. That's the biggest thing that's bothering me. I mean, the suit I can get used to, and there's also, it looks like the texture is different when you get past the crest. You can see a little bit of that hinting there. So I'm interested in seeing how the whole thing looks. But the fact that they're calling it Superman, I'm calling it BS that he said, oh, by the time I locked the final draft. I'm like, you probably locked the final draft a while ago, and you probably didn't make that decision like when you locked the final. I call total BS on that. There's like, and the title of a movie is dictated as much by the marketing department of your studio as it is by the even if he is the head of the DC studios, there's other elements to this because marketing a movie is a different part of the studio than the people who actually make the movie. And so, like even Kevin Feige sometimes at least especially under the previous regime before Bob Iger came back, he couldn't like really do a lot with the marketing side of things. So, and famously the BVS name was not something that Zack Snyder had wanted. So like there's stuff like this has happened at Warner Brothers before. So
yeah.
Ultimately, Angelina, what do you think about the fact that now this movie is going to have the same name as that Christopher Reeves, the OG Superman movie, and all of a sudden now you're really making a direct comparison? How do you feel about that? Because Kevin Feige recently said that every time they go for a new origin story in the MCU, they go back and put on the original Superman movie from 1978 because of how good of a movie they consider it to be and how like much it got the formula right, I guess. And I mean, he meant it as a compliment, but obviously now you're looking at this and saying it's going to have the same title. That's even more of a direct comparison because it's going to get compared to Henry Cavill's Man of Steel, of course. But what are your thoughts about the title change?
I mean, Christopher Reeves is iconic, right? Like he is the Superman.
Many people.
And so in a way, sort of going back and trying to restart the narrative, I guess they were really trying to clean the slate, but if they do it unsuccessfully, they're screwed, right? If they screw this up, there's nowhere else to go, except restarting the slate again in 10 years, which would be annoying. But I think it's a good chance for them to just dial it back and try one more time in order to build a successful legacy. The original name didn't really make sense, right? Because it was supposed to be.
It was the first movie, like in calling it that. I was like,
well, like I can kind of see it. I think he explained it like he's like Superman is the legacy, like him living. He is the legacy of Krypton. Like Krypton's legacy lives through him. So and the fact that he was like going back to his Kryptonian heritage in the movie, I can kind of see what they were doing. It just like it just have either. I've always been a guy of like, okay, if you're doing a reboot, like have a subtitle. Just have a subtitle. It's not that like a lot of Halloween fans were pissed that like when David Gordon Green made the reboot trilogy, and you're just calling it Halloween. So it's like in the continuity, it's like Halloween, then kills, then ends. I'm like, how that doesn't just call it lives, returns. Just go to ChatGPT, have like 10 titles, and boom, just insert one of them. It's not that difficult.
Actually funny.
I love the one that you came up with in our when we were just pre-gaming this live stream, and you were like, Superman, I swear this will be good. This will be
like Superman, I swear this will be good this time, guys. I swear. Yeah. And that's
I was like, that would be okay. Well, but like kidding aside, I mean, look, they just did a movie called The Batman, right? Like you could just do that, just call it The Superman.
But then although I think it's the same world.
How many of those movies do we have?
No, but they didn't think of that when Robert Pattinson's Batman came out. Nobody's thinking that's Michael Keaton's and there's no.
I mean, like people might think the Superman and the Batman are part of the same world.
Interesting. I mean, maybe.
Yeah. So would you think more people are likely to find that confusing versus just Superman? Or
I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to think of like general audiences, like how they think, because it's like obviously like the super nerds like us, we're gonna be like, okay, obviously it's different, but the people who are just like, I'm gonna go see a movie on a lazy Sunday afternoon, and they'll be like, the Superman, is this a sequel to the Batman? And like, that kind of thing.
No.
So that's just and obviously it'll also be confusing just calling it Superman, because it's like, okay, now it's just like you're doing the Reeve movie again, like. Unless you're doing a straight remake, then don't call it Superman. I don't.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Maybe it is. Well, I don't know if it's gonna be a remake because they're gonna have so many other characters that were
right.
I mean, they will have a lot of characters that were in the original Superman movie that they're like supporting characters in the world of Clark Kent, but they also have a lot. Like they have a Green Lantern. There was no Green Lantern in the original Superman movie. But yeah, guys, I mean, these are two big developments. We will get into this, I'm sure, in more detail as we get more images. The movie is now officially in production. There's a certain level of tangibility that comes with that. And, we love to see, more progress. This is a movie that's going to be here next summer. So it's not that far away. And so I'm excited. I know you guys probably are too. I know, John, you are for sure. And Angelina, I'm sure we're going to go see it and review it when it comes out next year. But guys, let us know in the comments what you think. What do you think? Is this new title more confusing than the title we had before? Like, it's just Superman, but like, are you gonna think that you just went to watch a 30 or 40-year anniversary of Christopher Reeve Superman and then be confused when you see David Cornsweet Superman? Like, or is it? I don't know. You let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe, of course, as always. If you didn't like it, you can hit the dislike button. We'll take that interaction any day of the week. And of course, go out there and watch something DC related, and then come back to us. Talk to us about it. We'd love to hear from you. And then we'll be back here on DCU Daily, like, as it says in the name, each and every day, Monday through Friday. Right now, we're going to do a quick switch over, and we're going to start talking about Dune, because as this whole mashup live stream says, it's DCU Daily Times Movie of the Week. So let's do that switch, and then, we'll get to talking about what many people are calling a masterpiece. Well, let's see what Angelina has to say about it. So stick around. We'll be back in a couple of All right, welcome back to the live show. And now it's time to talk about movie of the week. So the movie of the week, as you can see on the graphic, or if you're listening, is Dune Part 2. It's the movie that was supposed to come out last year in 2023, but due to the strikes in Hollywood, they kind of just moved it back. They were like, we need all our stars on the red carpet, and we'd rather push it back and then, take the hit, and so they did. Now they've got Dune Part 2 coming out, Warner Brothers does, and the same month later on, we're gonna get Godzilla X-Kong, The New Kingdom. I don't know. That's another long title. But we'll get into that, when that comes out. For the time being, we're going to focus on Denis Villeneuve's masterpiece. I mean, the first Dune was called a masterpiece, so if that's what it's got to live up to, I wonder, how they can raise the bar up from there. Then again, there were some people who were like, it's not even a complete movie, the first one, that is. And so we had the same problems here. And Angelina went to go see the movie. So we've got Angelina on the show today. If you were watching earlier, we also have John joining us. We were talking about DCU daily stuff earlier with Superman Legacy, or now as it's known, Superman. Now it's time to talk about Dune, another Warner Brothers production. And this one, as the question says down there, Angelina, I'll throw it to you first. Give us a quick primer. We will get into the full review in a second, but give us a quick primer. What are your thoughts on this movie? What did you think about it? Like your initial reaction going to see it?
Visually stunning. Too long, and yet you have so many questions that are left unanswered. That's my teaser. There you go.
That's a good teaser. And then John, you are a fan of the franchise. You've read the book. You know the story. So what are your thoughts on Dune? I mean, and certainly this movie specifically. What did you think about it? Have you seen the trailers? Are you looking forward to it?
I'm definitely looking forward to it in a rough sort of sense. I didn't really like the first one. I thought it was okay. I joked that it felt like the greatest movie of 2006, like with a lot of the tropes, but like you got to understand, like Dune was made before all the tropes were, so I've come to like respect it and that kind of thing. But like, I never read the book. I have seen bits and pieces of the David Lynch movie, and then obviously I saw part 1, and it's okay. Like it's fine, but it like
That was
again,
like
that's
the biggest roast on that movie that I've ever heard. I was over here like
okay.
behind
it's
here.
like
The best movie of 2006. I don't even know what movies came out in 2006, like off the top of my head.
Like that just
Was
like
maybe
in
one
the
of the
ways like of
Spider-Man
the
movies?
cliches and the
I
tropes
was
and that
like,
kind of thing.
whoa. He just threw hands there. I feel like people like Dune lovers are gonna come.
Oh yeah,
are
they're
gonna
gonna be
Oh,
pissed. Like
fierce.
The Departed. The
Yeah.
Departed came out in 2006 and won the Best Picture Oscar the
yeah,
following
well,
year.
I will say The Departed is a hell of a lot better than Dune Part 1. I'll give you that.
I
But
mean,
like, it
The
just like
Prestige, Casino Royale, those were all 2006.
all better. But
We
you
got
know, it's just
Blonde
like
Bond.
Dune Part 1. It's like as many have said, it's a technical marvel. Definitely outstanding.
It won a lot of Oscars
technical,
for that.
technical aspect.
Yeah.
Like some of the best CGI like I've ever seen in a movie. Like that and Ex Machina on more like a personal level.
The second one, 100% just sort of encapsulates that and does it even better. It is truly visually one of the most beautiful, stunning movies I've ever seen. There are some just insane shots in this movie. I got to see it in like one of the actual real Dolby theaters. I had to drive all the way to Arcadia. And you can like feel some of the scenes, like especially with the worms and stuff like that. I don't want to give too much away just yet. There will be spoilers here, you guys. There will be.
It's down there. Just look at the graphic. You're warned.
I was like, you guys know. But so, a lot of the reviews are starting to pop out. I was lucky. I was able to go see a preview of the movie over the weekend. It officially comes out tonight. So if you guys are going to see the movie, definitely let us know. Are you guys like, what are you nervous about? Just let us know how you feel. Are you going to see it tonight? Do you have tickets for this weekend? But I went to go see it this past weekend, and I walked into this movie. I've never read the books. I actually did buy the book, the first book, and I accidentally left it in a hotel room, and then I never ordered a new one. And so I just never finished it. But my biggest issue with the first and the second book, or the first and the second movie that make up the first book, is that they take so much time showing us all of this stunning camera work and all of these certain scenes, just beautiful, right? Beautiful shots. But then they fail to give you the necessary backstory that you need for things to make sense. Like, they just take all of these leaps and bounds, and it doesn't matter how many times you've seen the movie. If you haven't read the book or you don't know someone who knows sort of the lore of the original book, there are things that will just never make sense because these movies are made for people who have read the books. These are made for you Doonies, not for the normal people that are trying to enjoy a movie and connect all the dots. There are no dots to be connected if you've never read the books. So I think that's still my biggest issue is you just have to suspend so much belief in order to make this movie mentally work and understand how these characters interact within each other and how everyone's story intertwines. But with that being said, once you do that, and a lot of people can't do that because there are a lot of leaps of faith you have to take in order to understand all of these little niblets going on. Florence Pugh, I was so excited to see her. She is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next movie for sure.
Dune Messiah.
Austin Butler playing Fade Rutha. Freaky, creepy, scary, absolutely horrifying. However,
Dude looks crazy.
Yeah,
Scary.
nuts. Nuts. But I ended up reading this part of a review that it was like Dune Part 2 contained a beautiful, terrifying short film in the middle called Meet Fade Rutha, which is so accurate. And I think I'm pronouncing his name right, Fade Rutha. It literally, there is like a 10-minute sort of interlude, if not a little bit longer, in the middle of the movie where you go to the Hera. I know the word. I'm so sorry.
Are we talking about the planet that they're on?
Yes. Oh, Harkonnen.
Arrakis.
Sorry, I was like, it's not coming to me. So they go to the Harkonnens planet, and everything, because they have a different sun, which is also why they're so pale, which makes so much sense. Everything is almost black and white. So it's a completely different part of this movie. It literally
becomes
looks
like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows for 5 minutes.
Longer, like 10. There's this whole fight scene where he's actually murdering one of the actually a few of the characters from the first movie in this sort of like gladiator style situation. It is hardcore. The visual effects are super cool because they still have that from the first movie. I forget what it's called. It's like they press a button and it essentially activates this like force shield. So you get to see all of these little things. Technically, again, the movie is just incredible. I'm not a Doonie, so please go easy on me for this review, you guys. As I'm speaking through it, I'm like, wow, I sound like an idiot. I'm so sorry. But essentially, this whole middle of the movie is to introduce Austin Butler's character. But then at the end of the movie, he dies. So I feel like the only reason they gave him that much time was because it was Austin Butler, or he's gonna come back to life, but he's dead. So I didn't understand.
Well, that's definitely a spoiler.
Yeah, I didn't understand the whole exposition right there because why are you introducing me to a character for more than half
do you have any?
Kill him.
Yeah, I'm totally in the dark. The thing is, I know a lot about Dune. I've never. You did get a little bit wrong. I apologize. I don't mean to call you out, but I have not read Dune. The most I've gotten about Dune is that I've seen bits and pieces of the original. I've seen the first one, and I read and watched a lot about Dune after the first one came out. And a buddy of mine is a huge Dune head. That's why I'm gonna go see it because. We're all gonna like go review it, and for him because he loves Dune. He's like the biggest Dune fan.
And I feel like that's it. It's like you have to be like obsessed with it, or you're funny. Kind of one of us. You're like,
it's like we're all going to him, like because he's like the one that knows it. I don't know how many. I know he read the original. I don't know if he read the rest of the books. I think he did, but yeah, we were all going to, Mark, what's this? What's this? What's it? We're like, what is this? Why is this character? And so we're all like flooding him with questions because we don't know a goddamn thing about this franchise, yet he does. So he's probably annoyed with us, but it's just like we're going to just inundate him with all the sorts of questions because we're all lost. So, you know, I mean, I guess I would
Yeah.
assume like Austin Butler,
I
you
mean,
know, being
the
nominated and being Elvis, like he got like
yeah.
a bunch of screen time as you mentioned, so that makes sense. I could, but I don't know a thing
If
about the
that's the
character.
only reason they did that, I'm gonna be pissed because the movie was too long and yet not long enough. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, no, I
it was
felt that
incredible. It
with
was
movies.
cool to see. He scared the shit out of me. There are scenes where he's literally spitting out of his mouth, which was weird. There's a lot of characters that are like pinned to the ground at one point, and just you can literally see like the slobber coming out of their mouth, and I was like,
Yeah.
ew. But it
Yeah.
lends a sense of realism there. You know, overall though, this whole movie really seeks to so they sort of called it like a truncated version of Dune because although they split the book into two movies, they sort of shorten the end of the book. And so essentially, Timothy Chalamet's character is becoming the Messiah. He fights it for a while, but his mom, who becomes the Reverend Mother, is really, really making sure that he is known as the Messiah. Paul Atreides, you end up finding out Paul Atreides is not an Atreides, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, saucy. Okay.
Yeah, he's actually not an Atreides. Neither is his sister. Crazy.
Hmm.
So they
This
have
is me,
more.
average fan, reacting because I
Yeah,
don't know the
exactly.
book.
I'm like, they have more to do with the
Yeah.
Harkonnens than you would think, which is also so gross to me. Wow. So yeah, Paul essentially through this whole movie is becoming the Messiah. He steps into that role pretty well. He plays, I mean, he's a really strong force to be reckoned with this movie. His acting is phenomenal. I think he did a great job. Zendaya did a great job. Florence Pugh. I mean, you have like such a great amount of people in
Dude,
this movie. Javier Bardem has redeemed himself in my eyes from that Little Mermaid moment. That was terrible. That was awful. Also, if you guys wanted to know what Austin Butler looks like bald, yeah, this is not cute.
definitely true.
Represent.
Not cute.
I mean, the biggest thing for me about this movie was that they're trying to adapt something that isn't really meant to be adapted to the screen. Like the
Right.
way those
Frank Herbert
books are
designed it that
written.
way.
Yeah, so it's already an uphill battle, and then you gotta like also then make it entertaining enough that people go watch it to the tune of like millions of dollars. And then
Right.
from what I do know about Dune, I understand that yeah, it's basically like a self-fulfilling prophecy that he's not really a messiah, and he sort of these visions don't kind of work out in the end, and so Dune
Right.
Messiah is sort of a cautionary tale by the
It
time you
is.
get through the three.
The whole
So the trilogy
yeah.
is that's where we're headed with this, and
Yeah. Well,
so it
and I don't
seems
know if
like
they're gonna
yeah,
adapt the rest of the books because
yeah.
there's, I believe, 3 or 4 more that Frank Herbert wrote. He was gonna write, I think, the 7th book, I wanna say. Then he died.
And then his
So yeah,
son
1, 2,
continued.
3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
6. Yeah. 7th book, he died, but then allegedly his son and someone else wrote the last book he was gonna write into 2 books, although that's according to the Dune fandom, those aren't, the real ending, and that's a whole nother mess in terms of this
That's one of
franchise.
those
So,
yeah, it's like if
um,
George R.R.
yeah,
Martin didn't write it, then is it really
yeah,
Game of Thrones kind of a thing, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the whole
Yeah.
thing was, the whole thing that Frank Herbert was trying to do is like, as you said, a cautionary tale about charismatic leaders. Like that was the whole thing of like, don't trust the people that are just really good at swindling people and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
look at
The cult
society
of
now. Look
personality
how
is
much we,
yeah, yeah.
evolved and we didn't. So that was the whole thing of Frank Herbert. That was like the basis
Yeah.
of it. But yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm intrigued
look
with how this will go if they are going to adapt all the books. I know Denis Villeneuve said he's going to stop after Dune Messiah and then whatever
and
else.
he's like he might pass the baton or he might become like the shepherd
Yeah,
of the franchise, right? Like maybe he'll
yeah,
bring it we were actually talking about, off air who would be a good director to kinda come in and be maybe like a MCU format where you got a TV director that's gonna stick with the stylings of Denis Villeneuve, but just continue the story forward. Or maybe like a David Yates who took over the Harry Potter franchise from Chris Columbus, but then again, the look of that franchise changes over time as the kids grow
Yeah.
up. So it gets
right.
there very the latter movies are very different than the earlier movies, which have a very different charm to them. But I mean, Dune Part 2 box office wise, just before we finish, I just want to touch upon this is going to be the biggest movie of the year for some time. I mean, at least for a month maybe until Godzilla vs Kong comes out,
Yeah.
or the Kong times Godzilla. Again, the
If
long
that
time
even
New
displaces
Kingdom.
it at that level. I
It
mean, their opening preview numbers are insane, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
Deadline was calling it spicy for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at this article before we started, right? Here's the one. It's spicy $10+ million previews. Now,
Yeah.
$10+ million previews is considered a good number for some movies coming out in the summer months. And, in a post-pandemic world where the box office still hasn't quite recovered all the way, this
Right.
is the end of February, early March. That's when they're getting these kind of numbers. That's a good number. Not only that, I was reading, another article on that because they do a great job of covering the international box office. It's starting out well internationally, and we know that the first Dune movie they released internationally much earlier in a lot of the markets, so that they got ahead of it during the pandemic, and they made a bunch of money and had some momentum going into the domestic. And they did a little bit of that here too. So people in Europe got to see it almost a week sooner, and then put out reviews, get the word of mouth going. In addition to the critics, and even some of the critics didn't get to see it until after some international markets. So they've done a good job of trying to replicate that model, which made the first movie probably, I think it was definitely the most successful movie Warner Brothers put out in that era of the pandemic, certainly with the whole day and date situation, and this pissing off Legendary who's been financing this movie, and they're really a 50-50 partner in this. Now, if it's able to truly reach $170 million debut, that bodes well, because that means it's already a good, like, 1/3 of the way, if not more, maybe even a little bit more of what the first movie, ended up doing after, like, a couple of weeks. So it could beat the first movie's box office, especially now that we are farther away from the pandemic. But there will be competition from Warner Brothers themselves with the Godzilla times Kong: The New Kingdom, and there will be other movies that start coming out in a couple of months. The good thing, though, is a lot of superhero movies from Marvel side and DC side are out of the way. And so
Yeah.
this movie will have a good run. There's not a ton of competition
Well, I feel like
outside
that
of
was
the
also
Marvel.
honestly kind of planned after they moved
Yeah.
it so many times. They were
Mm.
like, we need to make sure that we're not going to have to move it again, and it's going to need sort of that taxi lane. You know what I mean? So I definitely think that was planned. Overall, I see this movie doing really well. I think that the biggest thing these movies have going for it is that it's so confusing and so visually stunning that you have to go see it twice at least to understand it, even sort of. I was midway through the movie and I was like, yeah, I have to watch this again. So it's not a movie you go see once. It's a movie you go see 2 to 3 times in order to break it down and try to figure it out, because there's just no way. There's no way. And I didn't say it, but the biggest, sort of the biggest difference between the movie and the book, from all of the reading that I did, was that so Paul's younger sister is not yet born, and she's telling the Reverend Mother essentially what to do via her little baby fetus, which is creepy. And so you only actually get a vision of Anya Taylor-Joy for maybe 2 minutes. She's not actually in this movie.
Because this movie literally picks up where the first movie leaves off, because there's no time has passed, and she was, Rebecca Ferguson's character is pregnant at the end of the first movie, right? Like, that's when we find out. And I mean, but it fits in, right? Like, the Messiah is getting all these visions, so I guess the fetus can somehow talk to the mother. Anyway,
well, okay,
we'll
so there's a missing thread. Both of them drink the water of life. So first, Jessica drinks the water of life, which actually goes to her unborn child, and that is what makes her like a super fetus, which is kind of creepy.
Okay.
All
right. Well,
there's that.
Well, look, ultimately, this movie is already off to a fantastic start, because as I had the numbers up earlier, the first movie made like 433 million at the height of the pandemic, and now this movie is already starting off at 170 million. So it's gonna be like halfway there just after opening weekend worldwide. It's got a 95% Rotten Tomatoes score, which we were we touched upon, I think,
really
in
well.
the pre-show, and the audience score is exactly the same. I mean, and this is 231 reviews. It's certified fresh. So people love it. At one point, this was 97. I think it started out at 100. So it's settling into those mid 90s, which is about as good as it gets. And so it looks like the word of mouth is good. The critics love it. Is it a masterpiece? You should go and decide that for yourself, because everybody will have a different opinion on it, especially depending on how you perceive if you like the first movie or not, right? And it's
Yeah.
art, so ultimately it hits differently for everybody. I thought the first movie felt like an incomplete film. Other than that, I think there wasn't too much wrong with it. So I'm sure we'll see like what my thoughts are when we next talk about something like I think we're gonna talk about Drive Away Dolls soon, hopefully. So, is it Drive Away Dolls? I keep
Yeah.
messing up the
Yeah.
title of that movie. Yeah, yeah,
We'll be back talking about Drive
yeah.
Away Dolls. That
We'll
Paul
be talking about that soon.
Pedro
But I mean,
Pascal's not actually in the movie, just so you guys know. I mean, not really.
oh,
He's in it for like 2
okay.
minutes.
Yeah, not even.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yep.
That's
So.
well. I mean,
Well, there's that. If you guys go
Yes.
see Dune Part 2,
Yes.
let us know. It actually
Yeah.
officially comes out tonight, but I know a lot of us were able to get to some previews. Please let us know what you think. Drop your comments. Please tell me if I pronounced half of the names wrong, because I'm sure I did, and I can take it, kind of, sort of. My feelings can take it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It was so nice to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been great. This is the first time we've done one of these mashups. I love bringing the world of DC together with like movie of the week. Very different feel. We'd love to do this
Oh,
again in the
yeah.
future when the Also Curious show is back and we can kind of like mix it all together. But Angelina is great. And John, thanks for joining us. Superman's got a new. Well, it's Superman now. It's not like Superman Legacy. And of course, Dune Part 2. Go check it out. Come back to us. Talk to us about it. Like and subscribe for more content like this. We'll be back with movie of the week again in the near future. And we've got lots more to come on this channel. Until next time, guys, have a great rest of your week.